I'm Charles MacKay, General Director of the Santa Fe Opera, and I'm here today with Anthony Michaels-Moore, who will be singing two roles in our upcoming double bill. Anthony, it's great to see you back in Santa Fe and to have you doing two new roles, I think, in your repertory, singing the Impresario in Mozart's Impresario and the Emperor in Stravinsky's Rossignol. Give me your first impression of the pairing of these two operas.
So I think it's going to make for a very, very interesting pairing. And certainly speaking as somebody who tends to specialize in heavy 19th century Italian operas, it's going to be something of a relief to play something very different. Certainly the first half, the Impresario, is very much a comic opera. It's in English. So for all those people who are worried about their German, we're going to be doing it in a very crisp new English translation, which I think will have an immediate connection to the audience. It'll keep it light on the surface. I think underneath the superficiality of some of the trivial theatrical goings-on, there actually is a deeper message. And I think with the pairing with the Rossignol, which we'll be singing in Russian, I think people will actually come to the Stravinsky in a different way, having sat through the Mozart. So my congratulations. I think it's a very astute combination.
Well, thank you. And of course, to me, it made perfect sense because both Mozart and Stravinsky are really iconic composers for the Santa Fe Opera. You know, I did the stats this morning, and Mozart, far and away, has racked up the most performances at the Santa Fe Opera since 1957, far ahead of even Richard Strauss or Puccini or Verdi. And of course, Stravinsky was very much involved in the formative years of the Santa Fe Opera. He was here and actually supervised the first production of Rossignol that was done in 1962. And I think his early involvement with the Santa Fe Opera really helped to put the Santa Fe Opera on the international opera map. So it kind of made sense from that point of view to pair these two composers together.
And I hadn't realized that it was the Mozart opera was written as part of a competition between Mozart and Salieri at the instigation of the Emperor. And by general consensus, Salieri was reckoned to have won. That's interesting, I think, bearing in mind how things have turned out.
I wonder if you'll talk a little bit about this resolution of the conflicts between art and artifice or artificiality and maybe natural music and mechanical music that we encounter in Le Rossignol.
Yeah, certainly in the Rossignol. I mean, it's adapted from the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. And like all fairy tales, it works on a multitude of levels. There's a very simple story about this wonderful bird that is heard singing and is brought to the court and becomes the #1 singer, but then is replaced by a mechanical bird, which is fascinating to listen to, but doesn't have the same beauty as the nightingale does. And at the end of the story, the nightingale saves the emperor from death and is reinstated as the #1 singer and comes to sing for the emperor every night. So it's a very simple, beautiful story. But obviously, it asks us questions about natural music, artificial music. What do we prefer to listen to? How do we interpret sounds? How do we interpret the meaning of art on a high level and on an instinctive level? I think Stravinsky fell in love with the Rossignol because he also adapted it for the symphonic poems, and there are little pieces that he lifted out of it. It meant a lot to him, and he spent a lot of time on it. And it's interesting seeing that he believed that he was never going to write another opera after that one because he felt that the rest of his music should be heard in concert form or with ballet. So in a sense, we have a finished product with the Rossignol. This is what Stravinsky wanted us to experience. I think connecting it with the Mozart, if you have a general manager who is trying to put together a company to do an opera, you're also asking fundamental questions about taste and choice and structure. So I think the two things work very well together.
Anthony, you certainly have sung a wide range of roles, and I was thinking about this. You made your Santa Fe Opera debut in 2004, singing the title role in Simon Boccanegra.
That's quite stunning that it's been 10 years since I first came here. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to have to approach this breadth of work. That's the first thing I would say. And I think it's testimony to Santa Fe Opera that they do deal in this wide range of pieces. And for that, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to be part of that. It goes back to the Impresario's idea of, well, we have to do the standard works, the Traviatas and the Carmens and the Falstaffs, but we also have to be adventurous enough to experiment with new operas and give opportunities to new composers. The Mozart role for me is something different because it's predominantly speaking, it's predominantly in English, whereas the second role is in Russian. It's brief but important. He is the emperor, so there's a certain nobility and gravitas about him, as well as a fascination with things beautiful. When I was very young, I used to do a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan. And when I mean very young, I mean 10, 11, 12. But I've always been very used to that opera comic idea where you talk and then you sing. For the Stravinsky, Russian is a beautiful language to sing in. The vowel sounds are lovely. It's very much like Italian in that sense, in that they're very open, easy vowels. So it's something that's very approachable as a singer. I'm delighted to be along for the ride.
Thank you.